Hi, folks. This is Pastor Elaine from Faith United Church in Icklesburg, Pennsylvania. I'm welcoming you to a special 9/11 video from us and our friends. I was asked as I was recording individuals' thoughts, why this year? Why not wait to the 20th anniversary next year? But my heart was telling me I could not wait. This country is facing a terrible pandemic that started at the end of February. People being asked to isolate, social distance. Businesses were asked to be closed. We started working from home. Schools were being closed. Schools are still trying to figure it out. Even our churches were asked to be closed on Easter Sunday. We've experienced over 180,000 deaths, with many others becoming ill. This pandemic has affected everyone in this country and worldwide. We have also witnessed social injustices. Our cities are a mess. Peaceful protests turning into violence and rioting, looting, businesses being destroyed by fires, with also some innocent folks being killed. And then along with that, it's a year of a presidential election. I felt we needed to remember now how a country came together, stood up to the atrocity that occurred on Tuesday morning, September 11th, 2001. Following a terrible, terrible day, our churches were full again for a few weeks. We stood for the playing of our national anthem. We were proud of the freedoms that we experienced day in and day out. We were thankful for all those who had given their lives over the years for our God-given freedoms. Freedom is why I believe we need to remember that fateful day, because it was an attack. It was an attack on our freedom. We watched in disbelief as planes hit the Twin Towers in New York. A plane hit the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. And then a plane was hijacked by its own passengers to take it away from the hands who had already hijacked it once, that crashed in a field in Shanksville, PA. How could this happen here in America? We witnessed firefighters, police officers, volunteers going forward into those towers and into the Pentagon and arriving where the plane hit in Shanksville to try to save lives that day. As we watched with horror as the towers collapsed, with debris and paper and dust flying everywhere, people just running, trying to save their own lives. Phone services overloaded. Let us never lose sight of our freedoms. As Americans, we regrouped. We were vigilant. We showed strength and courage and character. So we would like to dedicate this video to all police officers, firefighters, volunteers, and all the families who lost loved ones and are still feeling the effects today. The following are voices who have wanted to share where they were on 9/11 and their reactions here in central Pennsylvania. Thanks be to God, and God bless the United States of America. Many thanks to Dr. Zach Nice, our pianist, our choir director and vocalist, and the choir from Faith United Church.
Hi, I'm Janet Nice. I currently live in Elliotsburg, Pennsylvania, but on 9/11, we lived in Green Lane in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. I had CNN on in earlier, but my daughter stopped in. She just dropped her little girl off at elementary school and stopped on her way to work, and I was getting ready to go to work also. So she came in for a cup of tea. My daughter-in-law called. She said, "Mom, do you have the TV on?" I said, "No, I don't. Janine's here." "Mom, put the TV on." So we went into the TV room and I turned the television on, and of course they were repeating, showing the plane flying into building number 1 over and over. And I just was astounded. I kept saying, what could possibly have happened? Did the pilot have a heart attack? How could you not see those buildings? What on earth? Because no one at that moment had a clue that this was a terrorist attack. And not very much longer, in came the second plane, and we were stunned. Of course, we were crying. And I had a man in my basement who was working on our heater to get ready for the winter months. And I said, "Randy, you need to come up right now. There's a crisis." And he came up and I showed him what was going on. I said, "Randy, you need to go home to your family. Don't go back to work, go home to your family." Well, then Jim called. He said, "Are you guys all right?" I said, "No, we're not." I said, "I don't even know what to say." And he said, "Well, you want me to come home?" I said, oh yes, you need to come home. And then I told our daughter to go pick up her little one up to the elementary school and come back. I said, if we're under attack, you need to be here with your parents. So we continued to watch. She left to get Rowan, and I continued to watch, and of course it just continued. And then the news people said there were more planes. They couldn't locate planes, and they thought they might be heading towards some of the nuclear sites. And we lived right near Limerick, and of course, had we been out here, there would have been 3 Mile Island, and they were very concerned they were going to target those next. It just was astonishing to me that we were caught. When all the information came out and you found out that these men were taking flying lessons here in this country, that a lot of them had gone to college here and did not embrace the American dreams or ideals. They came with hatred in their hearts and destruction in their hearts. And we have, like Jim said, we have paid for that ever since that day. Our lives were turned around, upside down. You can't travel or go anywhere without security measures to try to keep us all safe again. I still see the pictures of people fleeing the dust waves that were coming from the buildings going down. But the police and all the firemen were rushing too. It was devastating. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Joanne Fritz, a member of Faith United Church here in Nicholsburg. And the morning of 9/11, my sister and I had made plans several days before to get together, to go down home, to start to get ready to have a sale at my home. I went into our living room, went home to turn the TV off, and I saw on the TV a plane hit a tower. And I thought, oh, what movie is that going to be? Then I realized what had gone on. Well, I turned the TV off. We still went down home. We didn't get much done because, like a lot of other people, we spent a lot of time in front of the television. We'd work a while, but then spend more time in front of the television to see what was going on. And it was a very sad situation. It's hard to believe that somebody could have decided to send an airplane into the tower. Then it was worse yet whenever we heard all the other things that went on afterwards. And try to imagine the rescue people and what all they went through to try to get to people to rescue them and how they got down out of the tower. It was a sad situation. We didn't get much done that day, but we watched a lot of television.
Good morning. I'm Dolores Kittner. I've lived in Perry County all my life. I've been a member of Faith United Church all my life. And my thoughts on 9/11, I was at work that day, and someone came in and said, a plane just went into one of the towers in New York. We said, oh no, what happened? So I raced home and got a radio and brought it down so we could listen to it. And then we heard about the other one that went into the other tower. It was very devastating. I had to call my mom right away and make sure she was okay. And then later on in the day, I talked to our son Clifford, who lives in Johnstown, and they saw Flight 93 fly over Johnstown, over the Galleria Mall. And that was really devastating, because if that plane had not come down where it did, a lot of lives could have been taken in Johnstown. A lot more. The same way with the two planes that went into the towers and the plane that went into the Pentagon. We are grateful that we did survive that day, all of us, and we hold all those people that lost their lives so close to our hearts. It was a terrible time for this country, and I so wish this country could get back to God where it needs to be. We need Him. We have Him in our hearts, but all the other people that don't need Him desperately, so that someday this country can get back to being the way it was years ago, and our whole world. I just hope He sticks with us so that we can make it right in this world. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Hi there, I'm Liz Fetter. I am a member at Faith United Church here. The pastor asked us to give some thoughts on 9/11 for this year. I grew up in the area here in rural Perry County on a farm, dairy farm. I'm now a mother of 3 and I'm a teacher. When 9/11 happened, I was student teaching in the Carlisle Area School District in a small elementary. I'm not sure what direction of town, but toward the Mechanicsburg side of town. I remember being in the classroom. I think it was the second piece of my student teaching, so I was probably teaching a good bit of it. But during one of the bathroom breaks or lunch, I can't remember now, it's been a while, but we went into kind of a joint faculty room that was between the 2 main hallways of the school, and they had on the TV was live somehow, I don't know how they did it back then, but showing the news, the coverage of 9/11. I don't think I actually saw either of the towers coming down, but I remember coming home that day and seeing the replays over and over again. Can you stop the tape? Or should I just keep going?
That's right, we can start it over.
Sorry.
That's right. And what was it, what was it like then, when I kind of have a funny feeling when you got home, things hit you, or,
I guess it didn't really sink in. You have to keep yourself together in front of kids.
Right. Because even as you saw the pictures of what President Bush was with kids, he was in that schoolroom when he got the news, and he realized he had to keep it together for those little kids.
And I was student teaching
so you
second
were student
grade.
teaching, yeah.
And I don't think we told them, how do you tell second graders, 8-year-olds, or what just happened. I just think that, I tell my kids all the time, sorry, I'm not emotional till I had kids, I swear. that like I tell them all the time, you're so lucky, like the country you live in and the freedoms we have, and
Yep.
just it's hard for them to know because they haven't studied all the other countries in the world and how bad things are, some of them. And now with the aftermath, all the people dying from cancer and just everything, like one day and one couple minutes can just change
Changes your
lives
lives so
and
quickly.
change worlds. And every time that country song comes on, where were you when the world stops turning or spinning? It's just like it just stops you and you remember. So kudos to that country singer. I can't remember who it is that
Yeah.
put it together, but
Yeah. It's true.
so that's my thoughts on 9/11. Sorry, it's an emotional one.
Let us remember with photos from the towers in New York City.
Hi, I'm Pam Heil. I am a mom and a wife, and I grew up and have lived in Perry County my whole life. I am the press secretary for the State Employees Retirement System. And on 9/11, I was working for the State Treasury Department in Harrisburg. We were meeting with 3 or 4 representatives from a big national bank headquartered in the financial district in New York City, and we weren't very far into our discussions when you could tell that one of the representatives became a little bit uneasy and asked to have a break, if we could take a few minutes to pause. I went down the hall to my office, and we had a big TV in the office, and when I walked in our office, there were a lot of people just standing around the television watching the television. It was very somber, and that's how I heard about what was happening on 9/11. My immediate thoughts were to get my family. I called Dave, my husband, since he works in remodeling and construction. He isn't always by a television. I wanted to make sure he knew what was happening. I called my mom, and I called my sister-in-law, who was self-employed, worked at home, and I knew that when she was working, she didn't always have the TV on or the radio on. I wanted to make sure she knew what was happening. And then I went and I picked up my girls from daycare. I remember getting there probably 1 o'clock, 1:30, and just taking them home. I just wanted to be with the girls. There was a lot of shock, disbelief, just confusion. even trying to get a line out to make a phone call was very difficult that day. But it was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. I remember driving home and the sky was very blue and there wasn't a single jet stream in the sky. It was just a barren sky, but just a lot of shock.
Ruth Riesinger, retired dairy farmer. I'm now a grandma, busy with grandkids, getting them off to school. And 9/11 was a day I will never forget, and every year it just sends chills up my back. I remember it very well. My 2 boys were home. Rob was out of school and helping farm, and Jim was on work release helping farm. And we were in for milking the cows, and we had breakfast, and they went back out to go check corn because we were getting this time of year, we were going to get ready to cut corn silage. And they weren't going very long till they come flying back in the house, and they were in their pickup and had the radio on. So that's how they knew what was going on, and rushed in and said, "Turn the television on." There was an airplane hit New York, and so Grady happened to be in there yet, so we all were glued to the television. We actually seen the second plane hit the second tower, and we kept watching, and just the smoke and the dust, and well, then we seen them collapsing, and that was, I could not believe a building would collapse like that. And just people running, and for somebody out in the country like we are, it was just hard to comprehend that this terrible thing was going on. And then you heard there was another airplane hit in Washington and another one out in Somerset, and you think, how can somebody take somebody else's lives like that? It was just awful. And all the rescue people rushing, they were going one direction and the people were running the other way. It's an image I will never forget.
Hi, my name's James Nice. Call me Jim. On 9/11, I was working at my place of business, which was Landis Block and Concrete in Souderton, Pennsylvania. And my wife and I owned it with my 2 sons. We had about 75 people working for us. And that morning I was making my rounds. I used to go into every department and see what they needed, see what their thoughts were and what have you. And I was coming up to the office to go to the break room because it was time for break in the morning, and a lot of the people gathered in the office room there, the little break room, and we had a TV in there. And when I walked in, there was about half a dozen people, and their eyes were all on the TV. And I saw the replay, I think, of the first plane hitting the tower. And we're watching that, and everybody's telling me what has happened. And about that time, the second plane hit the second tower. And just blown away. I couldn't grasp what was really happening. And we were watching and listening to all the reports of what this going on, that going on. And then we heard of other airplanes, and then the one tower collapsed, and that was just brutal. It just fell right to the ground from, I guess, 120, 130 stories with the dust and the dirt and what have you, and you could see people jumping out of the buildings. It was just unbelievable. Couldn't believe I was actually witnessing such a deal. And I don't know what to think of what had happened, but they said who had caused it, and I couldn't understand why they would let those men on an airplane, but we weren't allowed to single out people at that time, and they got away with it, and just terrible. And the debris, when it was all over, after another half an hour, that other building collapsed, and it was just unreal what that heat did to that building. Just melted it, and it just fell right to the ground, straight down, and all those people caught inside. And the pictures of the people running away in the dust and the just unreal. I just prayed for everyone. I called home, and my wife was watching on TV at home, and she'll have her own story to tell. So it's been a long haul. It's changed our world forever. With securities and what have you, it's a crying shame, but there isn't any other way to handle it. You're going to have to change to try to protect people. And, wish us all the best in the future. I have no.
Hi, my name is Sherry Joseph, and I'm a personal trainer. I'm actually Pastor Lane's trainer as well. I'm talking today about 9/11 and where I was at. And at the time, I was actually in my home doing a workout on the treadmill, and I was watching, I think it was Good Morning America. And you know, when the first plane hit, you're just kind of like in total disbelief. And you know, I just thought it wasn't real. But then when the second plane hit and you realize that it's like a real thing, I had 2 children in school at the time, and they were 14 and 12, my sons, and I was like, oh my gosh, should I rush and pick them up, or what should I do? Or I mean, at that point, I'm like, oh my God, are we going to be next? Is, you know, something going to fly into the school where my kids are? So it was just, it was horrible. And you know, as I prepared for this little video snip, I was, you know, doing a little more research and stuff, and it just brought everything back. And I don't think like we'll ever really get over it. It was just a horrible event that is ingrained in all our lives forever.
We'd like to share some pictures from the Pentagon on 9/11.
My name's Dave Heil. Local to the Eckesburg area here. My experience with 9/11 was, I'm a carpenter. I was working in a kitchen at the time, and I had a few things to finish up in the morning. Had no idea anything was going on. And then I get a phone call from my wife, who was upset about the 9/11, what was going on with that a plane had hit one of the World Trade Centers, and I was a little confused, not sure what was going on. Left that job site, went to a second job site where the one crew that was working there had got some little more information, so I got a little more information from there. Still found out that cell service was, at that point, was really bad. So I was having problems communicating back and forth with my wife to find out what was going on. Then I found out that a plane had hit out in Pennsylvania. Still didn't know really anything was going on, hadn't seen a TV. And at that point, it was one of those days where I ran a lot. I went to the third job site, and when I got to the job site, that crew was standing in front of a TV in a kitchen that was only like a 20-inch TV, a real small TV, and there was 5 of us standing around watching the events happen live. It was very heart-wrenching to see the devastation. We saw watched on TV as the towers fell. We as a group actually said a little prayer for as many people as we could, all the lives that may have been lost. It was just horrifying to see all that devastation, and since that, I've watched so many documentaries there for a while. There was a whole series on of documentaries, and every time I watch it, I still kind of get teared up over it, because the amount of lives lost that day was incredible, not necessary. I still have anger every now and then when I think about it, but the overwhelming sadness of the whole incident, and it's just overwhelming.
Hello, I'm Faye Watson, and I'm retired from the Department of Defense, from the naval base at Mechanicsburg. And I was working on 9/11. I didn't know about the attacks right away. We were in a meeting that morning, and our conference room happened to be right around the corner from the lunch area. And when we came out of our meeting, we saw a huge crowd of people in the lunchroom and out in the hallways watching TV. And that's when we were told that the Twin Towers had been attacked. And then we saw the report of the plane hitting the Pentagon. And that was a little shaky, because two of my fellow employees were down there that morning giving an exit briefing. So we had no idea if they were okay or not. Luckily, we were able to get a hold of them, and their exit briefing was early in the morning. They had left about 15-20 minutes before the plane hit the building. So that was a relief. But it was, the reaction, I think, for most people was just disbelief. I mean, how could this happen in the United States, the greatest country in the world? We had the greatest military, the best people. I mean, this is a wonderful country. We're strong. And here we are being attacked. And what struck me that morning is, with all the horrible things going on and the mess in New York, and finding out about the people on Flight 93, I had friends calling me there at the depot to see if I was safe. And it just stunned me. I felt perfectly safe. We were in lockdown. But it was just surprising that if with all those horrible things happened, that they thought of me and that I might be in danger because of who I work for. And after it was over and the attacks were over, and in the following days, when they had so many people talking about what happened, and we saw the pictures, and they were having, you could see people praying. It was pretty emotional, especially for me, because I had just lost my husband a few weeks prior to. So I was in a difficult place at that time. So yeah, it was hard, but on the other hand, it was so good to see so many people come together and support each other. And we were one country and one people. I just wish we could be like that now.
Okay. Well, my name is Scott Hoyer, and I've been a volunteer firefighter for close to 40 years. And when 9/11 happened, as being a fireman and having things happen over my lifetime, with anything possible could happen as a fireman, from a cat in a tree to an airplane in the water, or just about anything. I thought, oh, somebody just ran into the towers, and they'll take care of this, as they've done in the past with airplanes crashing, and guys are going to go to work, and it's going to be a hard job. And as the morning went on, I was in bed because I had worked night shift that night, and I got up and came downstairs to watch the news, and as I was watching the news, you could tell that it was more than just a small passenger airplane. And knowing that I had several friends that worked in the fire department in New York City, some very close friends at the time, I was worried that, you know, things weren't too good. And then as I watched the news, found out that the other planes had crashed in DC, and then in Pittsburgh, and then as you all know, the second plane crashed into the other tower. And at that point, I knew it wasn't going to be good, and it was more than just an accident, and the world was about to change. And it's been on a spiral of change ever since that day. And not knowing, not even thinking, not even fathomable to think that those towers could crash to the ground, because I've been on top of them with some of the guys that died in that buildings. And I got angry. And at that point, just started thinking what was going to happen next and how many people were going to go, and watching the videos on the news and watching people jump from the building to save themselves so that they wouldn't die in the collapse was hard to watch, and it was upsetting. And it wasn't long into the morning, I'd say it was about 11 o'clock. I worked for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and my job there is a fire safety inspector. And our responsibilities are the protection of the Capitol, the entire state Capitol complex in Harrisburg. And my boss called and said, hey, you've seen what's going on in the news. You might want to get in here and bring a bag. You might be here for a while. So I packed a few things and kissed my girls goodbye and left for the day. And went to my office, turned on the news, and when I got there, everybody else from work was there in our office, and we sat and watched the news. And just as you watch it and watch things happen, and there was a lot of heroics. People, you know, it brought our country together in some ways, and it divided us in others. But you know, we watched, and you just got more angry as you seen what was going on, and then just in amazement what was going on. People were, you know, covered in dust and burned alive and burnt beyond recognition, and thinking, you know, all of my friends that are here are there. Where are they at? What's going on? And then starting to see the videos rise coming on that, you know, fire trucks were totally destroyed, unrecognizable. Buildings were unrecognizable. And it wasn't long after that, being a volunteer fireman in Harrisburg, we have a urban search and rescue team, and it's Pennsylvania Task Force 1. Phone calls started going out to them, and they were one of the first rescue teams on the scene there in New York City. I have several friends that were volunteers, and always as a fireman, you want to get up, and when there's a big fire, everybody wants to go watch, see what's going on. And a couple of the guys from the firehouse when I lived in Linglestown said, hey, I'm going up there. And basically I called them on the phone because they were on their way. And I said, get your butts back here. This isn't a big fire. This is not a general alarm fire you're going to go watch. This is war. And they would have never got there, but it was a bad day. And as I found out more and more of my friends that were there, that I know were working, because something like that, just the way New York City guys are, they didn't care if they were working, if they were on vacation, what they were doing. They went to the firehouse and they got their stuff and they went to help. And everybody at that point that I know that was a fireman, policeman, anything, EMTs, paramedics, they all wanted to go and help. They didn't care. They didn't care if they were getting paid, what, they were going. So it was a hard day. And then as the days came, you know, calling friends that were there, couldn't get a hold of them, call them, leaving messages on their phone, hey, you all right, things like that, calling the firehouses. And those guys never came home, so.
Following are photos from Flight 93 and also memorial photos from New York City, from the Pentagon, and from Flight 93.
was awesome.
Many have asked, where was God on 9/11? And God was with us that day as we had a perfect weather day across the entire United States. So when the president asked for all planes to be grounded, that was never an obstacle. Again, we say thanks to all the folks who were rescuing, and we'll never forget the 3,000 lives that were lost. And God bless America with our Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh.